I feel a need this morning to make a clarification. When I talk about breaking up bar fights, these four bar fights going on in America among the people, I have to also mention that there's of course the danger of getting hurt yourself, getting caught between the bar fight. But there's also the danger that you can't go into breaking up a bar fight having a favored person. For in other words, if your buddy is caught in a bar fight, you're not necessarily the best person to break it up because you're going to favor one person over another. And even though we greatly want to become equitable in this country, equality, all men created equal, we must be careful that we don't accidentally try to take that path by favoring one person over another. For in other words, it's got to be equitable. If you favor religion over science, you're never going to get the balance that is intended for the planet Earth. If you favor men over women, you're never going to get the balance. If you favor black people over white people, you'll never achieve the balance. Oh, and if you have a prejudice against poor people and prefer the rich, you will never be able to break up the bar fight correctly because your preferences will come to the forefront. That's very important, especially when we're talking about rich and poor. It always seems to be in this country that we are really anti-rich unless it's our money. Then we claim we're not really rich. Rich people are over here. We just have an abundance of money. You know, we have a hatred. Can I use that word? A hatred for people who have finance, and we pity the poor, pity the poor, pity the poor. The teeming masses yearning to be free. We pity the poor. But here's the truth: in both cases, there are weaknesses, and if you don't understand the weaknesses, you can't break up the bar fight. Let me tell you about poor people. I've worked with poor people all my life. I've worked on the streets with poor people. But I will tell you this about them: they're needy, but they're also greedy. Many, 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 many of them are not willing to take the portion that is available, but want the portion that the rich man has so they can be immediately equal, and don't understand why it's unfair for them to get that because they're not presently in a position to acquire that. I've given bread, I've given shelter, I've given clothes to people who are poor and had them cast them to the side in front of me because they were greedy for more. Be careful. The poor you're going to have with you always, a great man once said. Do what you can for them. But if they're needy and they're picky and greedy, you got to be careful. But on the other hand, you look at rich people and you think, well, these would be some good people to work with. You can work with people. Here's what you find out about rich people: they're paid, but they're afraid. They're paid, but they're afraid. Even though they've got enough money, they're never sure it's enough money. They're always impatient that they're losing a dollar here or losing a dollar there. And so a selfishness sets in, not based upon how they hate others, but based upon how they're scared to death that they're going to lose this huge security blanket. So the needy poor who are greedy walk around all the time and go, it ain't fair. It ain't fair. And the rich who are paid but still afraid are always saying, it ain't enough. It ain't enough. So you got these two people in a bar fight. It ain't fair. It ain't enough. It ain't fair. It ain't enough. And they're going after each other because they're blaming the others. The rich are blaming the poor for taking their money through taxes. The poor are blaming the rich because why don't they spread the money and the blessing of the finance around? So you see, if you have a preference, if you think, well, I don't know why the poor people are complaining so much. The rich are they're doing this and that and the other. then you can't help. And if you're on the side of on the side of the poor people or the rich people, whichever one it is, because I lost my wages then. But if you're on the side of one or the other, it's going to be hard for you to break up the bar fight. It ain't fair. It ain't enough. This is how this gets started. And you can trace it back to all the bar fights. Oh, we can get into that tomorrow. Thanks for stopping in.